Hey crafty people, welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! Welcome back. In case you haven't heard, Margaret over at 7 Plaza and Toni at Crafty by Toni are doing a collaboration in the month of April, and it's hashtag ABC April 2025. And I was debating whether I wanted to participate, and then I was like, yeah, maybe I'll do at least some of the videos. And pretty much the only parameter is you have to create a project that goes along with the letter for the day you're posting it. Which is also explaining why I'm posting this a day later than I usually do, because I normally post on Thursdays. And when I took a quick look at the calendar, I saw the J and thought it was Thursday the 10th. But it's not. It's Friday the 11th. And by the time I realized my error, I had already come up with the whole project and was really excited about it. So I decided I'd just delay posting by a day so I could do a junk mail envelope project that goes for J on April the 11th. So that's why we're posting a little late. I will leave a link to Margreth and Toni's channel down below. They have posted on their Ko-fi shops the calendar and some prompts in case you need some help coming up with some ideas. And I may do one or two more this month, depending if I can come up with an idea that coordinates with one of the letters that I get excited about. I may do the 22nd because my name is Sarah and that's the S day, and it's a day I normally post on, but we'll see how things go for the month. For today, April 11th, it's J, so I'm doing something with junk mail envelopes because I have been trying to get my craft space back into order and have, you know, a ridiculous amount of junk mail envelopes, and found a whole another stack of them that I had to try and fit into the containers where I store my junk mail envelopes. And so, yeah, I need to do some more junk mail envelope projects. And I have basically two types of envelopes I classify as my junk mail envelopes. I've got my used envelopes, so that's something came in it, I opened it up, and I use a letter opener so I can get a fairly clean opening on it. And then I have a bill came in the mail, and it gave me a envelope to mail back the payment or to purchase whatever they're trying to sell, donate to the charity, whatever. And so they're new envelopes, but they were sent to me for free. So those are my other types of junk mail envelopes. And so we're going to create a little journal using a whole bunch of junk mail envelopes. And actually, as I was going through the stuff, I found this is a set of junk mail envelopes I seamed together to be an insert in a journal, and I think I may stick that in as well. And so I'm starting out with a fairly large envelope as my starting piece, and it is 12 inches by 9, and it is open along this side. But what I think I am going to do is leave this side open along the edge here, and then seal up here so it's a side tuck on this side. Then the next piece I have is a regular envelope, junk mail envelope, and I am going to create a belly band on this page. So we're going to trim that down. The next is actually a very pretty, I got an order in this envelope, and so we're going to do some trimming up so that it fits our journal better. And I'm just keeping that this side has the label with my address on it, so I'm going to keep that hidden for now. And let's see, we may stick in this guy here. So we've got that, which has a big old pocket over here. And then I've got another envelope that's a little larger than like the letter size. So I just folded that in half, and we can have a pocket here, and I may adjust where the pocket is. I think on one side I may do it as a side pocket, and on the other side leave it as a top pocket. We'll figure that out as we go along. and I gotta go bring my dogs in because they're being pains in the necks. And then I figured we'd have 2 envelopes for our next page. One that we've got folded longer and one where we've got the short side. So on the other side, we've got a longer side and a shorter side for that. Then we've got another bigger envelope, which I will probably move more center. I don't know, I may leave it towards the bottom. What's throwing me off right now is this one because it's not giving me an accurate view of where the bottom of the page is. So I'm just gonna move that out of the way for now. So yeah, I may have one bigger envelope in the middle and one down towards the bottom. Then the plan for this one is, these are a couple of new envelopes. I am gonna cover all of this and cut this open so it can be a pocket here. Attach this new envelope to the flap of the old envelope and then leave that open. And then attach the flaps of these two and have this be a flip out. And I'm probably gonna cover all of this up and make this a top pocket. Let's see, I had this one. Oh, this one I'm going to trim down and actually use to cover, cover my address label on here. Let me see if I can just black that out. Okay, so this will go in, and what I'll do is trim this pocket, this envelope down to create a pocket that will go on the front of this that will cover up my address. So this is just the backs of those guys. And then for our last page, I was going to add this guy as another flip out pocket. So we're gonna need to cover everything here and do a little trimming up to make our, edges nice and neat. So let's start with cleaning up our envelopes. Let's do that first. I'm just gonna grab my paper trimmer and just cut a sliver off this envelope. And any other envelope that's got a little bit of scruffiness from being opened, we're just gonna trim that away. Oh, and that piece fell off. We may just glue that. Let's grab our glue and glue that back down. See, what do we want to do? Let's see how wide it is. I think, all right, fold it in half. Our cover is at 6. So this is a little over 6 and not exactly folded straight. Let's straighten that up. Let's do just a little less than 6. And we're gonna trim. That cut pretty good. I was a little worried it would not cut, but that cut pretty darn good. All right, and then height-wise, I know we're at 9. And this is, all right, so this is at 10. So let's take it down to 8 3/4. So that's 8 1/4, that's 8 1/2. That's about, all right, so that's where we want to cut. All right, I'm gonna set that guy off to the side so it's out of the way since it's got my address on it, and we'll figure out what we're doing with it when we get to it. Now comes the important part of decorating, and I've got a bunch of printables that I'm going to use. You can use whatever papers you like. You can use printables, you can use scrapbook paper, book page, whatever you want to use, you can use to cover your things. And let me go through. I've got, let's see, this is Polka Art Studio. This is FantasyaDigitals. This is the same Polka Art Studio. I believe this one is either Polka Art Studio or LianaScrap's. FabiArtStudios, LianaScrap's, and I think all the rest of these are LianaScrap's. Nope, that's FabiArt. I will leave a list down below. I feel like I didn't print out everything I had planned on printing, so I may need to print some more. And yeah, my continuing fight with my printer over a printing border list. Like, I don't know why it didn't print that right, but yeah. For our envelopes, we're going to need to cover them. Now, you have decisions to make about windows, to keep the windows or not to keep the windows. That is the question. And the answer is, it's up to you. That's completely your choice. I'm going to keep some of the windows and probably cover up some of the other windows. Like, I think this one's going to get the window covered. And I think I want this as my front page, although I'm realizing now that this paper is, because I use US letter 8.5 by 11, so it is not big enough to cover everything. First question is, will it wrap around? No, that's not going to cover that at all. Here's what we're going to do for the cover. We're going to cut this piece in half. Smack dab down the middle. We're gonna grab some book page and do book page along the edges so that it covers up everything else, and then we can just use these on like so. Yeah, I like that idea. Let me grab what I need to do the covering. Okay, so I've got some book page and some scrapbook page, and I'm just gonna go around and just kind of cover up this envelope. And what I'm gonna do is, another tip is, I'm gonna glue down any bits that are popping up along our envelopes. And I'm just going to use my art glitter glue. You could, of course, use whatever glue you'd like to do something like this. Okay, so we're leaving this as a top loading pocket. I want to glue that bit down so that we don't have a problem with things catching on it when it goes in and out of the pocket. Let's just go ahead and do it across the whole side over here. So yeah, you want to take a look at your envelopes when you are working with them and see if there's any spots that need to get glued down so that you don't have issues with things buckling up on you or catching or all that good stuff. And I'm gonna go a little bit above the top of our envelope and just fold it over. And I'm going to be doing pretty much the same thing on the inside. I'm just going to wrap this piece around. But for up here, I'm going to put a little notch in here so that we can fold this a little bit over. Woo! Like so. And add more glue because we didn't add enough glue. And we're just gonna snip, we got a little excess over here. Fold that over and just keep working our way around the whole envelope. Now, I did say I wanted this to be a side pocket on this. No. Yes, side pocket. So let me slice this open before we cover it. Just going to take a sliver off so that it is open as a pocket. And we'll glue the top closed when we get to that point. And I'm not bothered by the fact that it's going to be upside down on the inside because we're just doing this to cover up the white. But I'm okay with that. Let's get, what I may do is put a little bit of washi. If it's really bothering me later on, we'll wait and see on that. Now over here, because I want this to be a side pocket, we're gonna glue this piece close. Actually, no, we're gonna hold off on doing this part because I wanna cover the envelope that I'm using as a flip out first so that we can glue it in before we glue the top closed. That'll make sense in a little bit. However, we can put this piece on here. Like so. Like that, although part of me's thinking I want to ink and part of me's not sure what color I want to use. Okay, so I decided I want to ink the book page with Shabby Shadows. So let me grab a brush. And then on the edges of this, I'm gonna go Scorched Timber. And I like that. That works. All right, so that we can finish up this part, let's cover this piece. So what I'm going to do is fold this back, decide what paper I want to use. I think I may use this one because I can turn it this way. And I'm going to mark it with a pencil where I need to cut. I feel like I had a pencil that disappeared. grab my paper trimmer, line it up, and I probably should have figured out where I needed to cut height was. That would have made some sense. I'll mark this on and trim that off. I think I'm gonna go vintage photo for the edges on this one. Woo! I'm knocking stuff all over the place. So what we're gonna do is we are going to glue this down to cover this whole piece. So I'm gonna hold this back so it's not in our way. Now, where we're gonna put our glue, because we wanna keep our pocket, is we're gonna run glue here, 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 up along the edge here, then down around here, but no glue here. Then what we're gonna do, that went over in a few spots, we can always trim that up, is come in here and sliver open our envelope like so. So we now have an envelope pocket that is open to there. And then let's just go ahead and use the rest of that same page. And we'll mark here and here. And I'm cutting this way first because that's going to leave me a bigger scrap. Then when I cut this little sliver, this little section off. So. All right, I am going to trim the excess off before I glue this down. Being careful not to cut open my envelope. I'm gonna have to re-ink edges when we're done. Let's ink the edges on this one. We're gonna glue this down and we're just gonna cover that envelope, the window up on this one completely. Trimming a little excess off, and then we'll just go around one more time and make sure everything's inked. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring this piece over and we are going to glue this in place inside here. So I'm gonna put glue all on this flap. That now flaps open, and I'm probably gonna run a little washi down here to cover that up and possibly along the outside edge, but that can wait till later. So now we can seal up the top of our pocket. So to do that, I'm just gonna run glue from our fold to the edge along the top. Now I can put some book page along the top to finish covering that. That's because we glued that shut, but we've got our pocket over here. can fold over like so. Oh, you know what? I wanted to go have a piece go all the way to the edge so that I could have this cover it up, and I forgot that I wanted to do that. Okay, so I am going to, off camera, because I don't think you need to see me do it, ink all of the book page with Chevy shutters, and I'm gonna put the other half of this page on the back. But in the meantime, I want to show you how I like to cover envelopes when I want to keep the window. So this is the one we're going to use as a pocket on this piece, which I managed to pull off a good chunk of the label, and I did measure, and that's how tall we want it to be. And yeah, I'm gonna try and get more of that off since the label wasn't stuck on exactly straight, but I want the pocket to be straight. So first, let's trim this down. And I'm gonna save this because this can become a pocket on another page. And I am going to decide what paper I want to use. So let's keep this over here. I think maybe I will use that, or do I want to do that? I think we're going to use this. We are 4 inches wide by not a straight line top wise, by 5 3/4. And what I'm going to do is tuck that inside and then grab a piece of carbon paper, flip that inside. And if you don't have carbon paper, you can take a piece of paper and a pencil, which I just had the pencil, and here it is. And what you can do is rub your pencil like this on the paper to create your own carbon paper, and then you just slip that in with the pencil scratch side down, because what we'll do is we'll take, I'm going to use a blending pencil so that I don't make any marks anywhere, and we're going to go trace around our opening. And by using the carbon paper, we now have it traced on here. So when we cut it out, we can glue it on and keep that rounded shape, because I really like the rounded shape of the windows. So I try and keep that when I can. And so that I can keep this piece, I'm gonna come in with my finger tip trimmer and do a slice so that I can now fit my scissors in to go the rest of the way, because if I try and use it with finger tip blade, I'm gonna go off kilter for sure. And yeah, this is a little fiddly and is a little extra work. And again, this is a completely up to you kind of thing. You could just cut out a rectangle from the center and not worried about keeping the rounded shape of the window. I just really like the rounded shape of the window. And then when you go to glue it down, it's almost perfect. You can't really tell where it's not perfect. I am gonna grab an eraser and erase my pencil marks. Let's do some tea dye inking just to cover up any unfortunate bits. And I'm just gonna go around the edge just in case any of the white shows. And then just take a damp cloth and just come in and wipe the actual window to take off any ink that got on the window. And now we can glue this piece on. And I'm going to keep a cloth handy so that I can wipe up any glue seepage. I think maybe I want to do flowers on the inside. Or do I want to do look at this bit? Actually, let's go with this section up here. And we're gonna cut it a little less than 4. And just do 5.5. And then that goes in like that. So let's glue that down. I do have a little bit of overhang at the top. And this place is such a disaster. Like, I keep moving things around and losing stuff on my desk. Let's trim that off. Now this will it'll go on here, and I'm trying to decide, I think I may want to just leave it completely open because that'll make it easier to get stuff in and out of, although I've got some of the edge showing then. Let's go ahead and glue this down and make it just a top pocket. Now let's glue it on and try and do it straight-ish. I still have some stuff showing that I'm not loving. Let's see if I can clean some more of that off. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got more of it off, but it's leaving a sticky residue. So I think I'm gonna do some maybe die cut. I have the Tim Holtz Sizzix die that cuts like a lace strip. So I think I may do a lace strip there and then decide on something to go down here, maybe the same lace as well. I don't know yet. Maybe I'll do it on all 3 sides so that it is balanced, but I've got to die cut that out. So we're going to set this aside for a minute because I want to do one more envelope where we keep the window, but you don't have to do quite the fussiness of what I did to keep the window on this piece. So let me find which envelope I want to do that with. I'll be right back. Okay, I decided we're going to use this one, which is going to be our flip up, but it's too long, or our belly band that is also going to have a flip up to it. So let's trim it off here. And I'm actually gonna take a sliver off of this edge. And then I am going to open it up and take a little bit more off of this piece. That's gonna go on there, and then I have space to add a tab. I may need to take more off. We can always figure that out later. All right, so to cover this one, which it's gonna go here, and this piece is gonna be opposite it. So let's pick out what paper we want to use to cover this with. You know what? It's gonna get a little bit more taken off of it. I am changing my mind. I'm having a bit of a think. Yes, we're gonna go with this one, and we're gonna trim this down so it's 8.5, so that our papers will be long enough. Craft-a-lanch behind me. Oh no. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is see, this is about, how wide is this section? About 2 inches. Okay. So I'm gonna cut off 2 inches from this piece. So that's gonna go there. Then we need a piece to go here. We're gonna go like this and like this to block out all of that so I can see exactly what I'll be getting if I do that. I'm not loving that. Then we can do that there. Okay. That's start gluing, and then we'll adjust some more pieces, cut more pieces. So basically, we're gonna keep our window, but let's glue this down. Instead of using the carbon paper to keep the exact shape, we're just gonna cover up the shape of the window with our papers. Just making sure this is down far enough. I'm gonna make a little line so I know how far down I need to glue that. And of course the pen has been eaten by my desk, which is a mess. There we go. And I'm just gonna come in with my scissors and trim this excess off. Yeah, how wide is that? 3/4 of an inch. All right, we're gonna cut 3/4 of an inch off of here and then decide how high we want this strip to go up. So option 1 would be to take it to about there. Option 2 is we could go there-ish, or we can take it all the way to the top. I actually think I like it best going all the way to the top. So that's what we're gonna do. And I'll trim off any excess. And I'm not too worried about it because what I'm gonna do is get out a piece of coffee dyed paper and cover this so that it's writing space. But we also need to, I just realized, cover this so that it's pretty. So yeah, I'm gonna need to do that as well. Let's do that real quick. And this way, I just need to make sure I'm putting it on our right side up and not overhanging our window on the other side. This is where it gets a little fiddly with a flip up, because you want to make sure you don't have white from the back of your paper showing. So you need to make sure you're lining it up along the window. this strip on, and I am going to use my Barely Arts glue. Gives me a little bit more time to shift it if it's not in the exact right spot, because Barely Arts takes a little bit longer to grab than art glitter glue. So this will get glued on to this page, and I'll glue it top and bottom. What I may do is just add a little bit more book page and ink it green and not put any more paper down on here, since we've got the belly band covering the whole page. So I'll probably just put a little bit of book page going down here. All right, I need to get coffee dyed paper to cover that, ink all this with green, and then I'm gonna cover the rest of the envelopes off camera, because I don't think you wanna sit and watch me covering a gazillion and 6 envelopes. We'll be here until next April ABC challenge if we do that. So I'm gonna do that and I'll be back. So I was starting to cover the other pieces, and this one is the section that goes in the middle, and this envelope's gonna get attached here, and then this envelope's gonna get attached to the flap over here and be a flip out on the other side. And what I realized is I want to keep this pocket available, but I want to cover that up. So what I'm going to do is take my piece that I'm going to use, slide it in all the way, take a pencil, and you guessed it, my desk ate my pencil again, and this one my dog ate. And I'm going to trace around like so, and then very carefully cut that out. That will go over there like so, and this piece can go on like so. All right, let's glue this piece onto this piece. Make life a little easier instead of trying to hold things in place. Go, that covers that up beautifully. Then when I slide it on over here, it'll line up with that almost perfectly, but since it's going to be sewn into a signature and these pages are going to be folded up, you won't even notice it's a little off, although I may pull this, if I can still do so, down a little. There we go. That's a little better. And then this piece can slip into here. And get glued down like so. Just want to see something. Gonna need to glue this down to this before I glue this piece down. So we're gonna set that aside because I've got to cover that. And before I can cover the back of this one, I want to glue it to this flap. So let's go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to go about my business covering everything up. And I'll come back and we can put this guy together. So I'll be back. Okay, so I've gone through and covered everything. So let's do a quick flip through. Got that guy, that one. And what I did for where our windows still are is I used some washi stickers to add some interest. So if there's nothing in the pocket, you have something you can see through the window. And then when we make something to go into the pocket, we'll be sure to put something decorative to go in the window when you have something in the pocket. This one I just used some scraps from one of the other pages and put it back there and figured that was pretty enough. We've got these guys, which I just covered the windows on this side. And again, just covered all of the windows. Here's the one where we've got the pocket there, and then a pocket up here. And then we've got a flip out over here with a pocket on this side. And then we've got this pocket over here, and that's a side pocket. Definitely going to be easier once I fill the pockets to know where the pockets are. And again, here's another window where I put some washi stickers to decorate inside the window. And that little pocket and that pocket is a top loading pocket. Yeah, we're gonna have to create lots of stuff to go in this. And then for the other half of this page, which is the 2 envelopes that I had previously stuck together, I decided let's make it a hidden journaling spot. So instead of a pocket, I put coffee dyed paper inside the inside of the envelope. So there we have that journaling spot. We've got this piece over here, and I did end up putting some baby powder on to de-sticky the bits that were still sticky, and then this pocket's gonna go on here. And then we've got, I just covered that, and we've got the flip out, and we're definitely gonna need to put some tape on here, and this is a side loading pocket. And so I'm gonna wait on attaching that because I started editing this video and it was getting kind of long. So what I think I wanna do is go ahead and just sew in the signatures at this point, and we can finish decorating in the next video because yeah, she needs a lot of decorating. And so I've got out my book cradle, which you basically sit your book in, and this is such a thin book, I don't think it's actually gonna work. Actually, it may help with just holding it in place a little bit. And I'm gonna go through, we're gonna make sure everybody's in good and where we want it. And I'm gonna use some clamps because I've got these guys that are, you know, short ones that aren't gonna get sewn in more than one spot in here, and everybody's in weird spots. So we're gonna try and make this work. And if you've watched some of my other videos sewing in signatures, I like making junk journals. I hate sewing in signatures. They are the bane of my existence. Just making sure everything's positioned pretty much how I want it. And I'm gonna go through, and these are clamps I got at the dollar store. All right, here's the pieces that I suspect are gonna be problematic. So we're gonna just open this up to the center. And I'm gonna put one clamp, and I'm pushing everybody all the way in here, which should grab the top little guy, and here. And you know what, I've got these guys, which I'm gonna use just to help hold everything together while I'm poking the holes. After I poke the holes, I'm gonna unclamp everything because me and clamps don't get along when it comes time to sew in the signature. And I keep forgetting that these guys are so big, they won't fit in here. If I was clamping over here, it would work, but because I've got all of these different sized pages, that's not gonna do me any good to clamp it over here. All right, so we'll do this guy. And then I've got an awl for poking my holes, and I'm gonna go one in the middle. And I've got my mouse pad underneath so that I don't poke into, so I'm poking the awl into something squishy when I get all the way through. And then we're gonna do one down here. All right. And now comes my least favorite part, the sewing in. And I've got some waxed thread, and I'm gonna go 3 times my journal height. I'm not gonna cut it off because it makes it easier to sew your thing together. You won't have to worry about pulling your thread all the way through if you leave it on there. Grab one of my blunt needles. And we're gonna go through the first hole. That went through very easily. Then I'm gonna go up to the top. This is not gonna go easily. Oh, it's gonna make a liar out of me. That went through very easily. Imagine that. This is a first, and I still have it clamped together. This is kind of blowing my mind right now. Because yeah, I'm usually on the struggle bus when sewing in signatures. I'm not gonna lie. Then we'll go through on this side. Oh, there we go. We're starting to start. Oh, that one went through fairly good too. I wonder if it's because this is such a smaller piece that I'm usually sewing in. I cram way too much stuff into my journals usually. All right, here's the tricky part. Now, I'm gonna hold this taut this way in the hopes of avoiding threading through this piece of thread, or running my needle through this piece of thread, because you don't want to do that, because then you can't tighten it if it splits the thread. So here's where we run into trouble. Going okay, except here I can show you what splitting the thread means, because I just split the thread. All right, so you can see my needle is going through this piece of thread here. I don't want that. So I'm going to back my thread out, or my needle out a little bit, and get it off of my thread. And so now that it's off the thread, I can pull it through. Wow, this was one of the easiest signatures I've done. It's kind of nice. All right, if we want to possibly add dangles, I want to add a little length to this one. So what I'm going to do is pull this one so that I pull some of the thread from the spool, then tighten here and pull this one a little longer. And then I want to pull everybody taut, but I don't want to be pulling it so tight that I start ripping my paper. So there we go. And we're actually gonna do this. That's being annoying right now. Just want to double check and make sure everything's good before. All right, we're good. All right. So I'm gonna have one end on either side of the center thread. I'm gonna pull it snug and make sure it's snug on the outside without pulling it so tight that I start ripping my paper. And then I'm gonna tie a knot. I'm gonna cut off from here, because what I will usually do is run the threads back under and tie another knot, and then one last knot just to be safe. And now I have plenty of length if I want to add some dangles to this. So here's our junk mail envelope, and I do have this piece that we're going to attach here. I just figured it was going to be easier to sew things in without this in place. So let's go ahead and attach this on as a belly band. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put glue along the top and along the bottom so that you can stick stuff behind. Ooh, that needs a little extra glue right there. Let's do that too while we're at it. So we've got a belly band back here that you can tuck stuff in there with. We've got, now I haven't closed the bottom here, but we will have a pocket over here. And I'm gonna do something decorative to cover up the fact that it's white right there. This one, we've got a pocket over on this side. And yeah, we're gonna have to create some big journaling cards and tags to fill our pockets, because we got some big pockets on this one. We've got a pocket over here. And I'm kind of thinking that if we just add some to this guy, it can become the tag that lives in here, because I kind of like it peeking through like that. That may be what we end up doing. Then we've got this pocket over here, and this pocket over here, and this guy opens up here. This one is a pocket up here. We're gonna need a nice tall tag to go in there. We've got a pocket over here, and then one over here. This one's a pocket going this way. Then we've got another smallish pocket over here, and this one over here. This one is a top pocket. This one opens up for journaling space. This will be a big pocket over here. On this side, we've got a pocket here, and then a pocket here. And I forgot, in the front, we've got a pocket here. So lots of decorating to do. Oh, and we're gonna have a pocket on here later when we attach it. And I also had a couple other pockets that I made from the rest of this envelope that I'm not sure where I put, that we're gonna figure out where they're gonna live. I had a plan in mind. I think I was gonna put them on this page. That's right, I've got 2 pockets to go on this page. So next time we're gonna add a couple more pockets and then create some pretty things to go in all of our pockets. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me, and happy crafting.